My name is Emily, and in the beginning, my life felt like a fairy tale. James and I met in college, fell deeply in love, and soon after we tied the knot. We were the couple that everyone envied. Successful careers, a beautiful home, and a seemingly unbreakable bond. Our villa, perched on a picturesque hill, was the embodiment of our shared dreams. It was a sprawling, luxurious haven that overlooked the ocean. The floor-to-ceiling windows brought in breathtaking views of the sunrise and sunset. Every corner of our home was meticulously designed, and it was the place where we celebrated our love and achievements. Our life together was filled with laughter, adventure, and plans for the future. We talked about starting a family, traveling the world, and growing old together. It felt like nothing could ever go wrong, that our love was invincible. But as they say, even the most perfect-looking lives can hide the darkest secrets. Our fairy tale was about to take a dark and unexpected turn, setting the stage for the tumultuous journey that would unfold in the chapters to come. It was a crisp autumn evening when James dropped the bombshell that shattered my idyllic world. We were having dinner in the elegant dining room of our villa, the room bathed in the warm glow of candlelight. The air was filled with the aroma of the gourmet meal I had prepared, a meal that I had thought would be the highlight of the evening. As we sipped wine and exchanged pleasantries, James suddenly turned serious. His eyes, which had once held so much warmth and affection, now seemed cold and calculating. He put down his wineglass and cleared his throat, and I felt a sense of unease creep over me. "Emily," he began, his voice steady but filled with an underlying tension, "there's something we need to talk about." My heart sank, and I braced myself for what was to come, though I could never have predicted the words that would follow. James revealed his demand, that I should give our beloved villa, the symbol of our love and success, to his ex-wife and his relatives. He claimed that it was a promise he had made to them before we even met, and now he felt compelled to fulfill it. My shock and disbelief were palpable, and I struggled to find words. Tears welled up in my eyes as I asked, "Why, James? Why would you ask this of me?" His response was chilling. He threatened me with divorce, making it clear that if I didn't comply, he would end our marriage and strip me of everything we had built together. The room felt suffocating as the weight of his words hung in the air. My heart raced, and a sense of desperation took hold of me. I couldn't fathom why he would make such a demand, and the threat of losing not just our home, but the man I had loved so deeply was paralyzing. As the evening wore on, we sat in a deafening silence, the rift between us growing wider with every passing moment. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of a tumultuous journey that would test my strength, resolve, and ultimately my capacity to fight for the life I had once cherished. In the days that followed James's shocking demand, I found myself trapped in a nightmarish limbo. The weight of his ultimatum hung over me like a dark cloud, casting a pall of uncertainty and fear over every aspect of my life. James had given me a month to make a decision about the villa, and every passing day felt like a relentless countdown to an impending catastrophe. It seemed that the man I had thought I knew so well had become a stranger, capable of cruelty and manipulation beyond my wildest imagination. I confided in no one, not even my closest friends and family, about the turmoil that had invaded my life. I was too ashamed, too afraid of the judgment and pity that might come my way. I wore a facade of normalcy, painting on a smile for social gatherings and work events, while concealing the torment that gnawed at my soul. My nights were sleepless, my thoughts consumed by the impossible decision I faced. I replayed every moment of our relationship, searching for clues that might explain James's sudden change of heart. Had I missed something? Had I failed him in some way? But as I delved deeper into my memories, I began to realize that the fault did not lie with me. The man I had fallen in love with, the man who had promised to cherish and protect me, had betrayed our vows and tarnished the love we had built over the years. The deadline loomed, and with it came a growing sense of desperation. I felt as if I were teetering on the edge of a precipice with no safety net below. The pressure was unbearable, and I knew that I couldn't go on like this. It was during one of those sleepless nights that a daring idea began to take shape in my mind. I remembered something I had done long ago, something that might just give me the leverage I needed to confront James and expose the truth. It was a risky move, but I was willing to do whatever it took to protect the life and love I had fought so hard to build. As the days on the calendar turned into weeks and the deadline James had given me to make a life-altering decision about our villa drew nearer, I knew I had to take action. The torment of living under his ultimatum had become unbearable, and I was determined to regain control of my life. The daring idea that had taken root during one of my sleepless nights was centered on a secret I had kept hidden from James since the early days of our relationship. It was a secret that I had never imagined I would need, but now it seemed like my lifeline. Years ago, when we had first purchased the villa together, I had taken it upon myself to install hidden cameras throughout the property. At the time, it had been a whimsical notion, a way to capture cherished moments and memories as they unfolded in our dream home. Little did I know that these same cameras would become my silent witnesses to the betrayal and manipulation that had infiltrated our lives. I had set up these cameras discreetly, disguising them as ordinary objects like clocks and picture frames. They were strategically positioned to capture every corner of the villa, both inside and out. In the days that followed, I meticulously reviewed the footage, combing through countless hours of recordings. What I discovered left me in shock and disbelief. It was as if I were watching a horror film unfold before my eyes. The recordings revealed the extent of James's deceit and manipulation. He was not the man I had fallen in love with. He was a master of deception. In the videos, I witnessed clandestine meetings with his ex-wife and relatives, conversations filled with sinister intent, and the blueprint of a plan that would strip me of my home and my happiness. Seeing the truth laid bare before me was both heartbreaking and infuriating. I had to confront James with this evidence, not just to protect our home, but to protect myself from the emotional abuse and manipulation I had endured for far too long. Armed with the recordings, I began to make copies and secured them in a safe place. The hidden cameras that had once captured our happiest moments were now poised to reveal the darkest secrets that threatened to tear our life apart. The battle for our future had begun, and I was prepared to fight for the love and happiness I had once believed was unshakable. As I continued to watch the recordings from the hidden cameras in our villa, my sense of disbelief and betrayal deepened. Each video clip revealed a layer of deception and manipulation that I had never imagined possible. In one video, James and his ex-wife huddled together, whispering conspiratorially. It was evident that their alliance was strong, and the sinister glint in their eyes sent shivers down my spine. They spoke of the villa, discussing its worth and how it would be divided among his relatives. I couldn't believe that James had been planning this betrayal for so long, all while maintaining a facade of love and commitment to me. In another clip, James's relatives were seen inspecting the villa, measuring rooms and discussing renovations. They spoke openly about the changes they would make once they took possession. It was clear that they were acting under James's instructions, complicit in his scheme. I watched as the conspiracy unfolded, my heart heavy with the realization that the man I had trusted with my life had orchestrated this elaborate plan to strip me of our home. The betrayal cut deep, and I knew that I had to confront him with the evidence I had gathered. But I also recognized the danger of my situation. James had shown himself to be ruthless and manipulative, and I couldn't predict how he would react when confronted with the truth. The stakes were high and the outcome uncertain, but I had come too far to turn back now. In the midst of gathering evidence, I confided in a close friend, Sarah, whom I trusted implicitly. She encouraged me to seek legal counsel and offered unwavering support. With her help, I began consulting with an attorney who specialized in divorce and property disputes. Together, we crafted a plan to confront James, armed with the irrefutable evidence from the hidden cameras. We would demand that he abandon his scheme and restore our trust or face the legal consequences of his actions. The battle for our villa and the truth had begun, and I was determined to emerge from it stronger, no matter the cost. As the deadline for my decision regarding our villa approached, the weight of the situation grew increasingly unbearable. The evidence I had gathered from the hidden cameras had revealed a web of betrayal and deceit woven by James and his collaborators, and I knew I had to confront him with the truth. The night I decided to reveal my knowledge to James was marked by a tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. I had invited him to sit with me in the living room, the very room where so many of our happiest moments had taken place. The room now felt like a battleground, the walls echoing with the secrets it had harbored. James arrived, his demeanor guarded and wary, perhaps suspecting that something was amiss. I, too, was on edge, my heart racing as I struggled to find the right words. I knew that once I spoke, there would be no turning back. With a deep breath, I began to reveal the truth, recounting the evidence I'd uncovered through the hidden cameras. I watched as his face transformed from initial disbelief to a realization that he could no longer hide his deception. The color drained from his face, and he remained silent as the damning footage played before him. The room seemed to close in around us as the minutes ticked by. The weight of the evidence was inescapable, and James could no longer deny the depths of his betrayal. The man I had once loved, the man I had believed to be my soulmate, sat before me exposed as a master manipulator. When I finished speaking, the silence that hung between us was deafening. I could see the struggle in James's eyes as he grappled with the consequences of his actions. For the first time, I sensed a hint of remorse, but it was too little, too late. In that moment, the balance of power had shifted. The threat of divorce that James had once wielded over me had lost its potency. The evidence from the hidden cameras had become my armor, protecting me from his emotional manipulation. As we sat in that room, the walls closing in around us, I knew that our marriage was on the brink of collapse. The love we had shared had been irreparably damaged, and the path ahead was uncertain. But I was no longer the vulnerable woman he had sought to control. I was a survivor ready to face whatever lay ahead, armed with the truth and the determination to protect the life and love I had once cherished. In the wake of the revelation of the hidden camera evidence, the atmosphere in our villa became charged with tension. James, once the master of our relationship, was now forced to reckon with the consequences of his actions. The power dynamic had shifted dramatically, and the threat of divorce, which he had previously used to manipulate me, was no longer his weapon of choice. We decided to meet with a marriage counselor, hoping that perhaps there was a chance to salvage our relationship. The sessions were emotionally taxing as we delved into the depths of our issues and the breach of trust that had torn us apart. Yet it was clear that the damage was extensive, and the chasm between us seemed insurmountable. Throughout the counseling sessions, I found myself growing stronger. The evidence from the hidden cameras had given me the upper hand, and I was no longer willing to be a victim of James's manipulation. I had seen the true extent of his betrayal, and it had opened my eyes to the reality of our relationship. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, I confronted James directly. I couldn't continue to live in limbo, and I needed to know where we stood. I asked him whether he was willing to abandon his plan to give our villa to his ex-wife and relatives, and to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of trust and honesty. James's response was a mix of frustration and resignation. He realized that he could no longer force me to comply with his demands, and the consequences of his actions were catching up to him. Reluctantly, he agreed to abandon his scheme and to work on rebuilding our marriage. While this marked a turning point in our relationship, it was far from a fairy tale ending. The wounds of betrayal ran deep, and rebuilding trust would be an uphill battle. The hidden cameras had revealed the darkest aspects of our marriage, and the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. As we continued our therapy and embarked on the journey of healing, I remained vigilant. I had learned the importance of self-empowerment, and I was determined to protect myself from further emotional manipulation. Our relationship would never be the same, but I had come too far to give up now. The truth had set me free, and I was ready to face whatever lay ahead with strength and resolve. In the aftermath of our confrontations and therapy sessions, the dynamic between James and me had shifted significantly. The threat of divorce, once his favored weapon, had lost its power, and I had gained a newfound strength and resolve. With the evidence from the hidden cameras as my leverage, I knew that James's plan to give our villa to his ex-wife and relatives had crumbled. His allies, who had once been complicit in his scheme, were furious with him for jeopardizing their plans. The very people who had supported his betrayal now saw him as the cause of their downfall. James's reputation, both personally and professionally, was in tatters. His actions had exposed him as a manipulator and a schemer, and the consequences were severe. Friends and colleagues began to distance themselves from him, and his business suffered as a result. In the midst of this turmoil, I met with my attorney to discuss the legal aspects of our situation. We explored the possibility of divorce, but it became evident that James's actions and the evidence from the hidden cameras could have serious legal repercussions for him. He faced the prospect of not only losing our villa, but also significant financial and legal penalties. As James grappled with the fallout of his betrayal, I made a decision. I couldn't continue to be married to a man who had so callously betrayed me and plotted against our love. I filed for divorce, using the evidence from the hidden cameras to strengthen my case. It was a difficult decision, but one that I knew was necessary for my own well-being and peace of mind. The divorce proceedings were challenging and emotionally draining, but I remained resolute. I had found my strength and independence, and I was determined to rebuild my life on my own terms. The hidden cameras, once a tool of protection, had become a symbol of my resilience and ability to overcome adversity. As the legal battle raged on, James's life continued to unravel. His ex-wife and relatives, who'd once seen him as their savior, turned their backs on him. His business empire crumbled, and his personal life was in shambles. The man who had once wielded so much power over me now faced the consequences of his actions. The tables had turned in a way that neither of us could have predicted. I had emerged from the ordeal stronger, wiser, and determined to create a new life for myself. The hidden cameras had played a pivotal role in exposing the truth and ensuring that justice prevailed. As the divorce proceedings continued, the once thriving life that James had built unraveled further. His business empire crumbled, and his reputation lay in tatters. The hidden cameras, which had initially captured our happiest moments, had become the instrument of his downfall. The legal battle was fierce, with both sides fighting vigorously for their interests. My attorney presented the evidence from the hidden cameras, showcasing James's betrayal and manipulation. It was a devastating blow to his credibility, and it strengthened my case significantly. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. I was able to keep our villa, the symbol of our love and the life we had built together. James, on the other hand, faced significant financial penalties and the loss of many of his assets. The consequences of his actions had come crashing down upon him, and he was left with little more than the ruins of his once privileged life. While the legal battle had been won, the emotional scars of our relationship ran deep. I had emerged from the ordeal stronger, more resilient, and fiercely independent. I had learned the importance of self-empowerment and the value of standing up for oneself in the face of adversity. The hidden cameras, which had played such a crucial role in exposing the truth, were now a reminder of the strength I had found within myself. They were a testament to my determination to protect the life and love I had once cherished. I had moved beyond the role of a victim and had become a survivor, ready to forge a new path for myself. In the aftermath of the divorce, I focused on rebuilding my life. I surrounded myself with supportive friends and family who'd been unaware of the suffering I had endured. I pursued my passions and interests, rediscovering the joy and fulfillment that had been missing from my life for so long. As the months turned into years, I found love again, this time with someone who cherished and respected me. Together, we created a new chapter in my life, one filled with love, trust, and happiness. The hidden cameras, once a source of fear and anxiety, had become a symbol of my redemption and resilience. They had helped me expose the truth, protect myself from manipulation, and ultimately find the strength to start anew. My story was no longer one of victimhood, but of triumph over adversity. The hidden cameras had borne witness to my transformation, and I was determined to make the most of the second chance life had given me.